Hello, this is Lady Boulay, and thank you for clicking on the video. I just came back to respond to some of the comments that you made from the last video. FBA, do you agree with this? And this was this Ethiopian woman giving her opinion mostly about FBA delineating from black immigrants. Now, I believe that there is a misunderstanding. As far as I'm concerned, the delineation is about establishing a lineage. Because if we're going to petition the United States government for reparations, we need to be separate from everybody else because the United States does not owe reparations to everybody on the planet. Now, if they owe reparations to you, if you're not Black American, if you're not FBA, then you need to make your own justice claim. But the FBA movement is about delineating so that we can make a justice claim for what happened to our ancestors in the United States. Now, it's very insulting for people like this woman right here to say that we're playing victim. When we speak on our history of what happened to us and what happened to our ancestors in this country, we're not playing victim. We're speaking on our history. Many of us have wonderful lives in the United States. We're not victims, but that does not negate the fact that our family members were mistreated, and we are going to talk about that. And we are going to demand justice and reparations. There is a serious wealth gap between black and white Americans. And the reason for that wealth gap is that our ancestors had to work in this country free of charge for 246 years in slave labor and then another 90 years of de facto labor called Jim Crow. Not to mention all of the humiliation and the brutalities that they suffered and that we still suffer to a certain extent. So when you say that we're playing victim, that is very insulting because then you want to turn around and tell us what America has done to your country. So are you playing victim when you tell us what America has done to your country? And if America is going abroad, thousands of miles away to do harm to you, what do you think they're doing to us who live here in their backyard? So you can speak on the harm that's done to you, but we can't speak on the harm that's done to us. That's why we don't have a conversation, and that's why the delineation is necessary. So it's necessary for reparations, but it's also necessary because we don't have the ability to communicate in an honest way. You want to tell what happened to you, but we can't say what happened to us. So, right there, there's a problem because there's no means of open and honest communication. And from my standpoint, it seems like delineation is really the best thing for everybody. Everybody stays in their own lane and mind their own business. And then maybe at some point in the future, we can learn how to communicate better with each other. I believe that out of the 54 countries in Africa and all of those tribes, and cultures, I believe that there is at least one that might be compatible with the spirit of FBA. I know there are Africans in the United States that we never hear anything from. They come here and they behave like white people do when they come to the United States. White people do not come to the United States criticizing white Americans and picking out everything they think is wrong with them. They come here, they find their place. If they want to fit into white society, they get in where they fit in. If they don't, they leave it alone and go on about their business. That's the respectful way to do it. But coming to a country that's not even your homeland and people are already there and been there for hundreds of years, and you come in and feel like you need to have an opinion about them, and then they turn around and tell you what their opinion is of you running from your own country and your responsibility, and then, we're the one that's wrong. There's no understanding between groups like that, and it's the best thing to do is separate from each other and everybody go their own way and mind their own business. That's the smartest thing for anybody. That's the smartest thing to do. But at any rate, I wanted to come back and say that FBA Black Americans, however we're identifying, should not take this kind of, I don't want to even call it propaganda. I just think this woman is misguided. I think she thinks she knows what she's talking about. And there are Africans and Caribbeans coming into the comment section agreeing with her, which means they have something in common with each other, but not with us. So that's another reason to delineate. It's the respectful thing to do so that we can all know our place. So right now, we really don't have time to be engaging in diaspora conflicts. We have important business that we need to take care of right here in America. We need our money. We need to close the wealth gap between black and white Americans. And the only way that's going to be done is that America pays us what America owes us, and that's reparations for all of those years of slavery. They will not be able to give us full reparations because you can't really pay for taking somebody's freedom and their children and everything they cared about and then taking their labor and their intellectual property. But you can make a good faith effort and give people the money that they need to start growing wealth for themselves and for the generations to come, just like you did with the white people. And the righteous thing to do is to make some kind of effort to repair the damage that was done over such a long period of time. So that's what our focus has to be now. And so many FBA have come on my channel and say they are just relieved to be delineating from these other black groups because it's just exhausting, all of this discussion, and you can't say anything right, anything you say is wrong. And yes, FBA can give as good as they get. So I'm not trying to say that FBA are all that good and all that good. No, no. FBA will give as good as they get. But the delineation will make you realize that you don't have to do any of that because you don't have to engage. And that's going to be good for everybody. In the previous video, this woman said that FBA calling themselves indigenous to the United States is a sign of self-hatred. Well, self-hatred exists in all societies, regardless to the race or ethnicity. If it didn't, we wouldn't see cases of people unaliving themselves and people doing all sorts of things to alter their looks, their shapes, and their personalities. So self-hatred is pervasive among all societies, and I think we need to get that straight. So delineation sounds like the key for people of African descent because we don't have rules of engagement about how we are supposed to interact with each other. I have stated before that when Europeans or white identified people come to the United States of America, they don't come here to posture themselves against white Americans. And if they did, white Americans would have handled it long ago. We have let this go on for too long. So delineation primarily is for establishing a lineage, true enough. But it's also to put space between ourselves and people that we don't have enough commonality with to have respectable relationships. Now, on individual levels, it would work. There are some black Americans who can get along with people from anywhere in the diaspora and have a good relationship. But as a rule, and it's not just on the internet, that's what we need to make clear. It's not just on the internet. Anybody that I talk to in my personal life, whether it's young, middle age, or old, if they have come into contact with black people or African descended people from other parts of the world, they have a negative view of them. There are cultural differences between us, and those cultural differences have to be respected. So if I go to a country in the Caribbean or a country in Africa to live or even to visit, the people in those countries would be under no obligation to change because I showed up. And if I didn't like something about them or their country, the same thing that brought me in that country would take me out. And I need to get on the first thing taking me out of there because they're under no obligation to accommodate me. And that's the same thing here in the United States. This is our country, whether people want to acknowledge that or not. There is not some place in Africa that we can call home. This is our home. Everybody should be respectful of other people's humanity. And if you don't know what that means, you need to ask somebody, especially if you plan to travel. As for this woman, she is Ethiopian. She's an African woman. Ethiopia itself has so many problems going on right now till I don't even see how she has time to concern herself with what's going on with Black Americans. Nevertheless, we're wise not to take her or anybody like her seriously because people like her do not have our best interest at heart. And whatever energy and intellect she has, she needs to share it with her own people and the people on the continent of Africa because they have a lot going on over there right now. And we are more than capable of handling our own problems. Okay, let me know what you think about the video. Give me a thumbs up and have a good evening.